The stars were quiet that day when Commander HFY first saw Earth. His ship, the Eternal Harmony, moved slowly through space toward the small blue planet. He had done this job many times before. Find new species, talk to them, bring them into the galactic family. It was always the same. HFY looked at the readings on his screen. The planet below had sent out radio signals for about 100 years. That meant they were still very young as a species. Most likely, they would be happy to join the galaxy and learn from older, wiser races. "Commander," said his second officer, a tall being with 4 arms named Kreltos, "we are getting close to their planet. Should we send the greeting message?" "Yes," HFY replied. "Send the standard peace symbols and math problems. They should understand we come in friendship." The message went out from their ship. It contained pictures of peace, simple math, and star maps. Every species in the galaxy understood these things. It had worked on over 300 worlds, but Earth was different. The answer came back fast. Too fast. A human voice spoke over their radio in a language they had to translate. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Ship Liberty's Edge. You have entered our solar system without permission. State your business, or leave immediately." HFY blinked his large eyes. No species had ever spoken to the Galactic Council like this. Most new species were afraid when they saw advanced ships. They usually asked for help or knowledge. "Send another message," HFY told his crew. "Tell them we are peaceful explorers. We want to welcome them to the galaxy." The human ship appeared on their screens. It was small and crude compared to their advanced vessel. Its weapons were simple. Its armor was thin. Any sane species would have stayed far away from a superior force. But the human ship flew straight at them. "Unknown alien vessel," came Morrison's voice again. "You did not answer our question. This is Earth space. You will leave now or we will make you leave." HFY could not believe what he was hearing. This tiny ship was threatening them. Their vessel could destroy 10 ships like the human one without any trouble. "Commander," whispered Kreltos, "surely they can see how much stronger we are. Why do they not surrender?" HFY did not know. In all his years of first contact, nothing like this had happened. He decided to show the humans their power. Maybe then they would be reasonable. "Power up weapons," he ordered. "Just enough to show them we are serious. Do not fire." The Eternal Harmony's energy weapons began to glow. Their ship was now ready for battle. Surely the humans would back down. Now instead, something happened that would give HFY nightmares for the rest of his life. The human ship accelerated. It flew directly toward them at full speed. Captain Morrison's voice came over the radio one last time. "Nobody threatens Earth without going through us first." The Liberty's Edge crashed into the Eternal Harmony's engine section. Both ships shook. From the impact, alarms went off everywhere. The alien crew was thrown around their bridge. "Report," shouted HFY. "Engine damage," called out an officer. "We cannot leave this system until repairs are made." But the humans were not done. Through the smoke and sparks, HFY saw something that no galactic species had ever seen. The human ship had attached itself to their hull. Human soldiers were cutting through the metal to get inside. "They are boarding us," said Kreltos in shock. "But their ship is destroyed. How are they still fighting?" The humans came through the walls like angry beasts. They carried simple projectile weapons and homemade bombs. Their ship was dead, but they kept fighting anyway. Lieutenant Amy Carter led the human boarding party. She was small compared to most alien species, but she fought like something from a nightmare. When 3 Veltar warriors tried to stop her in the corridor, she did not retreat. She did not ask for mercy. She attacked. Amy moved in ways the aliens had never seen. She rolled under their energy blasts. She used their own size against them. When one warrior grabbed her, she pulled the pin on a grenade and held it between them. "Back off or we all die together," she said through gritted teeth. The alien warriors had never faced an enemy willing to kill themselves just to hurt their opponents. They backed away in confusion and fear. Captain Morrison and his remaining crew fought through the alien ship like they had nothing to lose. When they were outnumbered, they fought harder. When they were hurt, they kept going. When the aliens offered to let them surrender, they laughed. Surrender? Morrison said to Commander HFY when they finally met face to face. We don't even know what that word means. The alien commander looked at this strange human. Morrison had been shot twice and had burns on his arms, but he still held his weapon steady. His eyes showed no fear, only determination. Why do you fight when you cannot win? HFY asked. Morrison smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had made peace with death. Because behind us is Earth, our families, our children, our future. We would rather die fighting than let anything happen to them. HFY felt something he had never experienced before. True fear, not fear of death or pain, but fear of an enemy that could not be reasoned with, bought off, or scared away. These humans would fight until every one of them was dead, rather than let their world be threatened. We will leave your system, HFY said quietly. We meant no harm. Good, Morrison replied. And tell your friends something for me. Earth is not looking for trouble, but if trouble comes looking for us, we will give it more than it can handle. Hours later, the Eternal Harmony limped away from Earth's solar system. Commander HFY sat in his damaged ship and thought about what had happened. His crew was scared and confused. They had been defeated by a species that should have been helpless against them. HFY began writing his report to the Galactic Council. He thought carefully about each word. This was not just a failed first contact. This was a warning. The species called humans are unlike anything we have encountered, he wrote. They do not follow our rules. They do not respect our power. They will fight to the death for things they believe in. I recommend immediate quarantine of their system. These beings are dangerous in ways we do not understand. He looked out at the stars and shivered. Somewhere behind them was a small blue planet full of creatures that scared him more than anything he had ever faced. They were not stronger or smarter than galactic species. They were something much worse. They were willing to die for each other, and that made them the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Every alien species that heard about the human encounter felt the same cold fear that Commander HFY had experienced. They shared the story in whispers, afraid that speaking too loudly might somehow attract the attention of these strange beings from Earth. Dr. Kethmore was the galaxy's best expert on new species. He had helped integrate over 50 different races into galactic society. When the report about humans reached his desk, he thought there had been some mistake. No species acted the way the humans were described. He sat in his laboratory on the planet Xerion Prime, reading the report over and over. The security videos from the Eternal Harmony showed things that should not have been possible. Beings who fought harder when they were hurt. Soldiers who smiled when facing certain death. A species that would destroy their own ship just to damage an enemy. This cannot be real, he said to his assistant, a young researcher named Yildra. No evolved species behaves this way, but the evidence was right there on the screen. He watched Amy Carter fight 3 warriors twice her size and win through pure determination. He saw Jake Morrison ram his ship into a superior vessel without any hesitation. These humans did not act like any other species in the galaxy. Dr. Kethmore had spent his life studying how different species developed. Plant eaters became peaceful traders who solved problems through talking. Meat eaters became honorable warriors who followed strict rules about fighting. Species that ate both plants and meat found a balance between peace and war. Humans seemed to be all 3 types at once, and none of them at the same time. He decided to study the videos more carefully. What he found disturbed him even more. When the human soldiers were interviewed after the battle, they showed no regret for what they had done. They talked about nearly dying like it was just another day at work. You have to understand, said Sergeant Ben Hayes during his questioning, Earth is not just our planet. It is where our children sleep at night. It is where our parents grew old. It is our past and our future. We would rather die fighting than live knowing we did not try everything to protect it. This idea made no sense to galactic thinking. Most species cared about their immediate family and maybe their close friends. The idea of dying for strangers, for people you had never met, was considered a form of mental sickness, but humans seemed to think it was normal. Dr. Kethmore sent his findings to the Galactic Council. His report was read by leaders from hundreds of worlds. They all came to the same conclusion. Humans were not just different, they were dangerous in ways that no one understood. The second encounter with humans happened 6 months later. Captain Yuao. Lisa Torres commanded a human exploration ship called New Horizon. She was mapping star systems near Earth when she met a patrol of Zephyrian vessels near the Rigel system. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as the best negotiators. They could talk any species into doing what they wanted. They had never failed to reach an agreement with a new race. They were confident that humans would be different from their reputation. Commander Velthar led the Zephyrian patrol. He had read the reports about the first human contact, but he did not believe all the stories. Surely these humans could be reasoned with. All intelligent species could be reasoned with. Human vessel, he broadcast to the New Horizon. This is Commander Velthar of the Zephyrian Diplomatic Corps. We come in peace and friendship. We wish to discuss your species joining the galactic community. Captain Torres responded quickly. Her voice was calm and polite, which made Velthar feel better about the situation. Commander Velthar, this is Captain Torres. We are always happy to talk with other species. What did you have in mind? This was encouraging. Maybe the reports about human aggression had been exaggerated. We would like to offer your species protection and guidance, Velthar explained. The galaxy can be dangerous for young races. We have procedures to help new species grow safely under the watch of older, wiser civilizations. There was a long pause before Torres answered. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. It was still calm, but now it carried something that made the Zephyrian crew feel uncomfortable. Let me make sure I understand, Torres said slowly. You want humanity to become a protectorate. You want us to follow rules made by other species. You want to tell us how to live, how to grow, and how to explore the galaxy. It is for your own good, Velthar replied. Young species often make mistakes that can be dangerous. We only want to help. Captain Torres laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the sound someone makes when they hear something so ridiculous that they cannot believe it. Commander, I appreciate the offer, but humanity does not kneel to anyone. We will earn our place in this galaxy the same way we earned our place on Earth, through our own strength, our own choices, and our own mistakes. Velthar felt his confidence slipping away. This was not going according to plan. He tried a different approach. Captain Torres, you must understand. There are hundreds of advanced species in this galaxy. If you refuse our protection, they may not be as friendly as we are. Some might decide to force you to comply. The silence that followed lasted so long that Velthar wondered if the communication had been cut off. When Torres finally spoke, her words sent fear through every alien who heard them. Then I guess they will find out why we survived when 99% of all Earth species went extinct. We do not know how to quit, Commander. We do not know how to surrender. And we do not know how to kneel. The transmission ended. The human ship turned around and headed back toward Earth space. Velthar and his crew watched it go, understanding that they had just witnessed something that had never happened before. In galactic history, a species had simply said no to the Galactic Council and meant it. Velthar's report to the Zephyrian High Command was brief, but clear. The humans cannot be negotiated with using standard methods. They do not respond to threats or offers of protection. They appear to prefer independence even if it means certain destruction. Recommend extreme caution in all future dealings. Within days, the story had spread to every major civilization in the galaxy. The humans had not just refused integration once, they had refused it twice. They seemed willing to fight the entire galaxy, rather than give up their freedom. Species that had never heard of Earth began to whisper about the strange beings who lived there. Children of peaceful races had nightmares about creatures that fought without fear. Military leaders from warrior cultures studied the human encounters and felt something they had never experienced before. Respect mixed with terror. The galaxy began to realize that they had discovered something new. Not just a new species, but a new type of species. beings who would rather die free than live as subjects, creatures who fought hardest when the odds were worst against them. And somewhere in the darkness of space, more human ships were launching from Earth, spreading out into the galaxy with the same determination that had terrified two separate alien encounters. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when an unstoppable force met beings who refused to be moved. The Galactic Council had never faced a problem like this before. In 10,000 years of bringing new species into their civilization, no one had ever said no twice. The council members sat in their great hall on the capital world of Nexus Prime, trying to figure out what to do about the humans. High Chancellor Morden was the leader of the council. He was an ancient being whose species had been part of galactic civilization since the beginning. He had seen the rise and fall of hundreds of worlds, but he had never seen anything like the reports coming from human space. "We cannot allow this to continue," he said to the assembled representatives. "If other species see that humans can refuse integration, they might try the same thing. Our entire system of order could collapse." The other council members agreed. Their civilization was built on the idea that older, wiser species guided younger ones. If that system broke down, chaos would follow. "What do you suggest?" asked Ambassador Krixtal of the Hegemony Defense Force. "We follow standard procedure," Morden replied. "Economic sanctions first, then limited military action, finally occupation and forced civilization. It has worked every time before." Admiral Torvash was chosen to lead the military operation. He was a veteran commander who had fought in dozens of conflicts across the galaxy. The idea of conquering one small planet with primitive technology seemed almost too easy. "How many ships will you need?" asked the High Chancellor. 50 should be more than enough," Torvash replied. "These humans have barely achieved faster than light travel. Their weapons are simple projectiles. Their armor is basic metal. This should be over in a few weeks." But other council members had read the reports more carefully. They remembered what had happened to Commander Zexhai and the Zephyrian diplomats. Something about the humans made them nervous. "Perhaps we should send more ships," suggested Ambassador Yeltara. "The humans seem to be unpredictable." Admiral Torvash laughed. "Unpredictable or not, they cannot fight what they cannot damage. We will blockade their system until they surrender. When they see they cannot win, they will give in like everyone else." The blockade fleet was assembled. 200 ships from 17 different species surrounded the Sol system. They were the most advanced vessels in the galaxy, equipped with energy shields, particle weapons, and technology that humans could not even understand. Admiral Torvash sent a message to Earth. It was broadcast on all frequencies so every human could hear it. "People of Earth, you are now under galactic authority. Your refusal to join our civilization peacefully has forced us to take action. Surrender now and you will be treated fairly. Continue to resist and face the consequences." The response came from Captain Ron Blake aboard a ship called Ghost Runner. His words were simple but sent chills through the alien fleet. "Admiral, this is Earth Defense Force. We hear you loud and clear. Here is our answer. Come and take it." What happened next changed everything the galaxy thought they knew about warfare. Human ships began appearing where they should not have been able to go. Captain Blake's Ghost Runner moved through the blockade like it was invisible. The aliens could not track it on their sensors. It would appear, attack a supply ship, then vanish before they could respond. "How are they doing this?" Admiral Torvash demanded from his bridge. His science officer, a brilliant being named Keltar, studied the readings in confusion. "Sir, they appear to have developed stealth technology, but that should be impossible with their level of advancement. The humans had somehow taken their primitive ships and made them invisible to the most advanced sensors in the galaxy." But that was not the worst part. The worst part was the psychological warfare. Commander Sally Price broadcast messages to the alien fleet every day. She did not threaten them with destruction or death. Instead, she told them stories about human history that made the alien crews unable to sleep. "Do you want to know about the siege of Stalingrad?" she asked during one broadcast. "Humans fought over every room in every building for months. They ate rats to survive. They used frozen corpses as building materials, and they never gave up. She told them about the Battle of Thermopylae, where 300 humans held off thousands of enemies until every last one was dead. She described countless other battles where humans had chosen death over surrender, victory over survival. "You think you can break us by surrounding our planet?" Price asked in another message. "You think cutting off our supplies will make us quit? Let me tell you something about humans. We have been to hell and decided to make it our home. We have faced extinction so many times that we forgot how to be afraid of it." The alien crews began having nightmares. They had never fought an enemy that talked about death like it was just another weapon. Their own species valued life above all else. The idea of choosing to die rather than submit was completely foreign to them, but the humans were not finished showing them impossible things. Engineer Tony Walsh and his team managed to capture an alien supply ship during one of Blake's raids. Within 3 days, they had taken apart every piece of advanced technology on board and figured out how it worked. Within a week, human ships began appearing with modifications that horrified the galactic engineers. The humans had taken peaceful exploration equipment and turned it into weapons. They had converted life support systems into ways to deliver poison gas. They had transformed defensive shields into offensive tools. "This is impossible," whispered the fleet's chief engineer. "They should not be able to understand our technology, let alone improve it." But humans had done more than understand alien technology. They had made it better. Every defensive system the aliens used was studied, copied, and turned against them within days. The siege of the Sol system lasted 8 months. During that time, Admiral Torvash watched his superior force slowly lose ground to an enemy that should have been helpless. Human ships grew stronger while alien vessels grew weaker. Human tactics became more advanced while alien strategies became useless. The breaking point came when Captain Blake's modified ships began hunting the blockade fleet instead of just defending Earth. The humans had gone from defense to offense, and the aliens found themselves being stalked through their own blockade. "Sir," reported Torvash's tactical officer, "we have lost 37 ships. Our supply lines are cut. The humans are now attacking our command vessels." Admiral Torvash looked at the tactical display and saw something that no galactic commander had ever seen before. His massive fleet was being defeated by a handful of primitive ships flown by beings who refused to acknowledge that they were outmatched. "Send the withdrawal order," he said quietly. "Sir?" asked his second in command. "We are leaving. Now." For the first time in galactic history, an advanced coalition force retreated from a planet they had come to conquer. The humans had not just survived the siege. They had won. As the alien fleet limped away from Earth, every species in the galaxy received the same message. Humanity was not just different. They were dangerous in ways that no one had imagined possible. The galaxy's nightmare had only just begun. The news of the Sol system defeat spread across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. Within weeks, every major civilization knew that humanity had done the impossible. They had forced a galactic coalition to retreat. The reaction was immediate and terrifying. The Veltar Empire declared the entire Orion arm of the galaxy off-limits to their ships. The Zephyrian Collective issued warnings to all member species about engaging humans under any circumstances. Even the Corden clans, who had never backed down from a fight in their 1,000-year history, quietly changed their patrol routes to avoid human space. But fear was not the only emotion spreading through the galaxy. There was also curiosity. What kind of beings could defeat such overwhelming odds? Were they really as dangerous as the stories claimed? The answer came from an unexpected place. Captain Pete Johnson commanded the human exploration vessel, Wandering Star. He was conducting surveys in the Vega system when his sensors picked up a distress signal. The ship sending the signal was not human. "Captain," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Mary Foster, "we are receiving an emergency broadcast. It is coming from an Altarian passenger ship called Gentle Breeze." Johnson had heard of the Altarians. They were a peaceful species that had never participated in the Sol blockade. They were known throughout the galaxy for their kindness and their beautiful art. "What is their situation?" Johnson asked. Life support failure, sir. They have over 3,000 civilians on board. Men, women, and children. Their ship is dying. Johnson did not hesitate. Set course for their position, maximum speed. Sir, said his second officer, Commander Rick Powell, we are not equipped for large-scale rescue operations. Our ship can barely support our own crew of 50. Then we will have to figure something out, Johnson replied. The Wandering Star reached the Altarian ship 12 hours later. The gentle breeze was drifting in space, its engines dead and its life support systems failing. Through the view screen, Johnson could see Altarian families huddled together in the dark corridors of their ship. Altarian vessel, this is Captain Johnson of the human ship Wandering Star. We are here to help. The response came from Captain Yilmora of the Gentle Breeze. Her voice was weak and filled with despair. Human vessel, we thank you for your offer, but we know your reputation. We understand if you choose not to help us. Johnson felt anger rising in his chest. These people were dying, and they thought humans might just leave them to die because of some reputation. Captain Yilmora, I do not care what you have heard about humans. We do not abandon people in trouble. We are going to get you out of this. What happened next would be talked about in Altarian schools for generations. Chief Engineer Kate Morris worked for 48 hours straight without sleep. She extended the Wandering Star's life support systems to accommodate species with completely different breathing requirements. She rebuilt atmospheric processors designed for human lungs to work for Altarian biology. Medical Officer Dan Wright had never treated an alien patient before. He spent 6 hours studying Altarian anatomy from their ship's computers, then performed emergency surgery on their wounded. He learned an entire new form of medicine in one night because people needed his help. The entire human crew risked their lives repeatedly over the next 2 days. They worked in dangerous conditions, breathed toxic air, and pushed their ship beyond its limits. Several crew members were injured during the rescue operations, but none of them complained. When other human crew members asked why they were risking so much for strangers, the answers were always the same. Because they need help, said Engineer Morris. Because it is the right thing to do, said Dr. Wright. Because if we do not help them, who will, said Captain Johnson. The Altarian rescue fleet finally arrived 3 days later. They expected to find floating wreckage and the bodies of their people. Instead, they found something that challenged everything they thought they knew about humans. Over 3,000 Altarian civilians were safe aboard human vessels. They had been fed, given medical care, and treated with kindness by the same species that had terrified the galaxy. Children who had been crying in fear were now playing games that human crew members had taught them. Captain Johnson refused any payment or reward from the grateful Altarians. We do not help people because we want something in return, he explained to the Altarian rescue commander. We help because it is what anyone should do. The Altarian ambassador to the Galactic Council was a wise being named Simara. She had lived for over 200 years and had seen many species rise and fall. Her report about the human rescue changed how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. The beings called humans possess a capacity for compassion that matches their capacity for violence, she wrote. They are not monsters seeking conquest. They are not savages who enjoy destruction. They are something far more dangerous to our understanding of the universe. They are capable of choosing to be either saviors or destroyers based entirely on how they are treated. Similar incidents began happening across the galaxy. Human ships appeared wherever disaster struck. They offered aid without asking for anything in return. They shared technology freely with species that needed it. They taught defensive tactics to civilizations that were under threat. The humans showed the same protective instincts toward strangers that they had shown toward their own world during the Sol blockade. Their definition of what was worth protecting seemed to include everyone they met. Captain Laura Mitchell saved a Zephyrian colony from a plague by sharing human medical knowledge. Commander Alex Thompson helped rebuild a Veltar mining station after an earthquake destroyed it. Dr. Jennifer Lane taught agricultural techniques to a starving world whose crops had failed. Every act of human kindness was reported throughout the galaxy. Species that had been terrified of humanity began to see them in a new light. They were still dangerous, but their danger came from their willingness to protect others, not from any desire to harm them. The galaxy began to understand something that changed everything. Humans were not conquerors, they were guardians. They fought so fiercely because they cared so deeply. They took impossible risks because they had learned that someone had to stand up for those who could not protect themselves. A new word began appearing in galactic languages. Different species had different ways of saying it, but it meant the same thing in every tongue: protector, guardian, the ones who stand between the darkness and the light. And in the depths of space, human ships continued their patrols, carrying crews who understood that their species' greatest strength was not their willingness to fight. It was their refusal to let anyone fight alone. The galaxy was learning that humanity's reputation for violence came from the same place as their reputation for compassion. They were a species that had learned the hardest lesson in the universe. Sometimes the only way to protect what you love is to become something that others fear. But they had also learned something else. Fear without understanding leads to hatred. Understanding without fear leads to respect. And the galaxy was finally beginning to understand what humans really were. 5 years had passed since the first human contact. The galaxy was no longer the same place it had been before Earth entered the picture. Every species now knew about humans, and most were still trying to figure out what to do about them. Xiaomang, Galactic Council faced a problem they had never encountered before. Humanity had become the most feared and most respected species in the galaxy at the same time. Traditional diplomacy had no way to handle this situation. High Chancellor Mordun sat in his office on Nexus Prime, reading reports from across the galaxy. Half of them described humans as dangerous monsters who could not be trusted. The other half described them as heroes who risked everything to help others. Both types of reports were completely true. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was a human scientist who had spent years studying alien cultures. She was also one of the few humans who understood why the galaxy was so confused about her species. She sent a message to the Galactic Council, requesting permission to address them directly. No human had ever been allowed to speak to the full council before. The request caused heated debates among the representatives. "We cannot allow a human into our chambers," argued Ambassador Krixtal. "They are too unpredictable, too dangerous." "But perhaps that is exactly why we need to hear what she has to say," replied Ambassador Simara of the Altarians. "We have been trying to understand them using our own thinking. Maybe we need to hear their thinking instead." After weeks of debate, the council agreed to let Dr. Rodriguez speak. Representatives from over 400 species attended the session. Many participated remotely because they were still afraid to be in the same room as a human. Dr. Rodriguez entered the Great Hall of the Galactic Council wearing simple clothes and carrying no weapons. She was small compared to most of the alien representatives, but her presence filled the enormous room. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," she began, "you have been trying to understand humanity using your own experiences. But human psychology, developed under completely different conditions than any other species in this galaxy." She activated a holographic display showing Earth's history. The images were shocking to the alien representatives. They saw ice ages that covered most of the planet, volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun for years, asteroid impacts that killed most life on Earth. "Earth is what you would call a death world," Rodriguez explained. "Our evolution was shaped by constant threats to our survival. Ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, and climate changes that would have destroyed most species." The alien representatives watched in horror as the display showed mass extinction event after mass extinction event. They saw how life on Earth had been nearly wiped out dozens of times only to recover and grow stronger. "Every other species in this galaxy evolved on stable worlds," Rodriguez continued. "You developed logical responses to predictable challenges. Humans developed differently because our challenges were usually about survival itself." She showed them images of human history. Wars that lasted for years, cities that fought on even when surrounded and starving. people who chose death rather than slavery. Our aggression is not random or evil, Rodriguez said. It comes from the same place as our compassion. We fight so hard because we care so deeply. We take impossible risks because we have learned that sometimes impossible things can be accomplished through determination alone. Commander Zorketh of the Science Coalition asked the question that every species wanted answered. But how can we live peacefully with beings who are capable of such violence? Captain Steve Adams had been invited to participate in the session. He was a veteran of the Sol system conflict, and his presence made many alien representatives nervous. But when he stood to answer, his words were calm and reasonable. The same way you live peacefully with anyone, Adams said, with respect, honesty, and understanding that we all want the same basic things: safety for our families, freedom to make our own choices, the chance to build something better for our children. He looked around the great hall at hundreds of different species, all watching him carefully. Humans do not want to conquer the galaxy, he continued. We just want to be part of it as equals, not as subjects or masters. Treat us with respect, and we will be your strongest allies. Threaten what we care about, and we will be your worst nightmare. The session that followed lasted 20 hours. Representatives asked questions about human psychology, human history, and human intentions. Dr. Rodriguez and Captain Adams answered every question honestly, even the ones that made humans look dangerous. When the session ended, the Galactic Council voted on something that had never happened before. They offered humanity full membership in galactic civilization without the usual protectorate period. But the treaty they proposed was unlike any other in galactic history. The terms were written by Ambassador Simara, who understood humans better than most aliens. Humanity would be granted full rights and responsibilities as a galactic species. In return, they would serve as the galaxy's protectors of last resort. When other diplomatic solutions failed, when species faced extinction, when the impossible needed to be attempted, the galaxy would call on the one species that had made surviving the impossible into an art form. The treaty was called the Terran Protection Protocols. It was signed by Dr. Rodriguez and Captain Adams on behalf of humanity, and by representatives from every major galactic civilization. As they signed the document, the assembled aliens realized they were witnessing history. Humanity was not joining the galaxy as conquerors or subjects. They were joining as guardians. The final entry in the Galactic Species Database was updated that day. It read simply, Humans, Terran origin, classification, guardian species. Approach with respect. Threaten at species-level risk. Protect at all costs. 10 years later, human ships patrolled the dark spaces between stars. They responded to distress, calls from species they had never met. They stood between the weak and those who would harm them. They had become exactly what the galaxy needed them to be. Children of dozens of species grew up hearing stories about the protectors from Earth. Stories about beings who would cross any distance, face any odds, and pay any price to defend those who could not defend themselves. And in the depths of space, Captain Jake Morrison's words were remembered on every human ship. Nobody threatens what we protect without going through us first. The galaxy had learned why humans terrify every alien species. Not because they were monsters, but because they were the only species crazy enough to believe that everyone deserves to be saved, and strong enough to make that belief reality. In a universe full of species that had learned to be reasonable, humanity remained beautifully, terrifyingly unreasonable. They were the guardians who would never give up, never surrender, and never let anyone fight alone. And the galaxy slept peacefully, knowing that somewhere in the darkness the most dangerous species ever discovered was standing watch.